Hi and welcome to Literary Hype. I am Stephanie, your Literary Hype Woman, and today's author conversation is a whole lot of nerdy fun. I got the chance to talk to Sam Maggs while at Emerald City Comic Con. She has written so many books. She does comic books. There's just a lot to talk about when it comes to Sam Maggs. So without further ado, here is my conversation with her. So you are at a Comic Con. What is your favorite part of Comic Cons?
It's always the people. I mean, for so many different reasons. As a creator, this is the place where all of my friends converge because we're all working at the same place for a weekend. So it's amazing to see all these people that I don't get to see a lot during the year for like a really fun time. But the same can be said of like all of my fandom friends and, you know, all of the people who read my work and I don't really get to connect with normally. Writing is a really solitary job. So it's amazing to come to a con and remember that like, oh, people have read my books and like they have made their way out to people who appreciate them. And I think, you know, the same can be said of anybody. Cons are an amazing place to meet like-minded people, to meet your friends from the internet, and to have a great time all weekend in a place that's really full of positivity.
So the first book of yours that I read was many eons ago, The Geek Girl's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yes.
So that's been what, like 9-ish years?
9, yeah, totally.
Yeah, I was a brand new baby bookseller when that came out. What is the piece of advice that you put in that book that you wish you would have known when you were a brand new baby nerd?
Wear comfortable shoes to conventions. I was so focused on looking cute all the time. Never again. These floors are almost always concrete. It's a very stressful. Also, like social media business cards. You're going to meet a ton of people over the course of the weekend, and a lot of the times convention centers are like, again, all made of concrete, and so it's really hard to get signal, and you want to be able to stay in touch with people. A lot easier to whip out a card that has like your socials on it, so people will be able to find you afterwards than trying to like mess around with, you know, your phone and everything. Contact cards, important.
You've done so much in so many different, very large fandoms.
Yes.
What has been your favorite project to work on?
I love working with Star Wars. They're such an amazing IP holder to work with because they have been one of the most receptive to me, including all the things that are important to me in my books, to include like female friendships, you know, female protagonists, queer relationships are always so open, and the things that are really important to me are really important to them too in terms of storytelling, and so I love that.
What is the process like in working with Star Wars and Marvel? Like, what kind of process does it go through before the final book?
Oh yeah, so much. There's a lot of back and forth between me and my editor on whatever project it is, but then also between me and my editor and then the IP holder. So like the licensing team in the case of Star Wars, that's Story Group, and Marvel, they have like a whole bunch of different creative councils, which is really interesting because sometimes the folks on those committees will argue with themselves too, like in the margins of your book or the manuscript, and so it's interesting to see their thought process. But it is a lot of back and forth. You know, they have a lot more information about the projects and the stories that they're planning to tell in the future than I do necessarily, you know? So the folks at Lucasfilm know what planets and characters they're going to be using in a TV show like 7 years from now that I would have no idea about, and so it's always important to have that feedback so that I'm not stepping on any toes and so that they're free to make the other things that they're making. But when you're working in universes like Star Wars and Marvel, there's so many moving pieces all the time that it's really good to have somebody looking over all of that from like an umbrella point of view, you know?
Have they told you no about anything, and what was it, if you can say?
Oh gosh, so many things. You're told no a lot in storytelling in general, and especially like IP storytelling. I think, oh yeah, one of the things was when we first started working on this book, Delilah S. Dawson has a book coming out in July that she's writing about an Inquisitor, and my editor, Tom, and I thought it would be cool for the antagonist in this book to be like her Inquisitor, but then the timing just didn't align. We were writing our books at the same time, and so there wasn't like enough information on what she was doing versus the timing of my book needing to be finished, and so Lucasfilm suggested the fifth brother, and they were like, we really want to learn more about him. This would be a cool opportunity for you to give him like more of a backstory, give him a species, you know, flesh him out a little bit more. So a no turned into like a cool opportunity, which is so often what ends up happening with these things, you know? So
your new book is Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars. I have seen some tweets about it being some spicy. How much fun was it to make a spicy Star Wars book?
It was really fun, and I'm really grateful that they let me do that. Andor got a little spicy. I feel like we're starting to see a little bit more smooching in Star Wars, and like, there's a lot of terrible stuff that happens in the Star Wars universe, especially during this time period, like with the Inquisitors out there and Order 66. Like, our friends that we love deserve to smooch a little bit. They deserve to have a little fun. I want them to be happy, so it was great.
I've just read The Unstoppable Wasp and loved it.
Thank you.
It is so much fun. What is the research process? So, like, there's so many like historical facts and science facts. What is the research process like to put into one of these books?
Oh yeah, so I actually wrote nonfiction books before I started writing fiction books. You mentioned Fangirl's Guide to the Galaxy. I wrote a couple of books called Wonder Women and Girl Squads, which were very heavily research focused, mostly about women in the history of science. And for those books, which were like all ages books, I had to learn how to research really complicated like scientific discoveries and topics, and then learn how to be a science communicator essentially and communicate them back to a reader in a way that was understandable. And so that came in really, really handy for the Wasp, because Nadia is a genius scientist, which I am not, but I really, really love to research. Part of the reason I started in nonfiction is because I just love the process of researching. I'm a big dork about it. I think it's super fun. And so I spent a lot of time like knee deep in papers and science journals, making notes, and then trying to figure out how to kind of re-relate them in a way that Nadia would kind of relate them to people. And it was really fun. I'm really grateful that you read it. I feel like not a lot of people read The Unstoppable Wasp, and it's one of my favorite things. It's really close to my heart, so thank you.
I really loved all the representation and girl power that's woven through it so beautifully, and the jokes. There's so many great jokes in there. What is your kind of like favorite part of the getting to put all that representation and kind of girl power and all of that all together into one book for young readers?
I feel like I have a real responsibility about it, to be honest, and I feel really honored to be able to do it. When I was growing up, the only show that basically showed girls cooperating as opposed to being like the only one on a team of men was Sailor Moon. And that had like such an impact on so many women of my generation, specifically because of that, I think. And it's really important. Girls are socialized to compete instead of cooperate with each other. You know, we're told there's this artificial scarcity where there's only ever room for one woman at the table or in the room at one time. The patriarchy made that up. That's not true. And it's not our fault for feeling that way. We all went through an I'm not like other girls, I wear Converse phase, because like we're socialized that way, you know? So I feel now that I'm creating fiction, I have a responsibility to kind of do the opposite of that and counter that and show the way Sailor Moon did for me, girls teaming up and cooperating together, and that there's room for everybody, that everyone can have a different skill set, and there's no right or wrong way to be a girl or a woman. And, you know, similarly, it took me until I was 33 years old to understand my sexuality, simply because I think I didn't see it represented like pretty much ever when I was growing up. I wish that, for the same reason that I wrote Fangirl's Guide to the Galaxy, wish that when I was a kid, I had anything that said, like, other girls are geeks, like, it's okay. I wish that I had anything that said, like, other girls are queer, and that's okay, and it's normal, and, like, here's what it looks like, and it's not a big deal, and this is what it means. And to be able to recognize myself on the page at that age might have changed the course of my life so dramatically, you know? And so I feel that I have a real responsibility to do that now, so that, like, little queer kids or teenagers or, you know, even adults who are looking and trying to figure themselves out have something that they can reflect back, that reflects themselves back onto themselves in the media. I think that's really important.
So you've got this new book coming out. I know Star Wars, very well protected. What can you say about what this book is about?
Yeah, so Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars is the sequel book to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, the video game, and also the prequel book to Star Wars Jedi Survivor, which is the sequel to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. That's a lot of words. Anyway, it takes place between the two Star Wars games. Basically, it follows Cal, Marin, Seer, Grease, and BD-1, the Mantis crew. A couple years after the events of Jedi Fallen Order, catches up with them, kind of lets you get a window into what their life looks like as they're traveling through the galaxy in the wake of Order 66 and Trilla's defeat and everything that's happened there, and they are being pursued by the fifth brother, who you may recognize from Star Wars Rebels or Obi-Wan. And I don't know if you know what it's like living with people in a confined space for several years, but there's some tensions have started to build a little bit, as even happens with people that you love very much. So there's a little bit of that. So if you're excited for Star Wars Jedi Survivor coming out in April, this is going to give you the context you need in the lead up to where that game starts, which it starts in a really interesting place. So
you've got so many different like YA and nonfiction and graphic novels and games. What is your favorite field to work in?
I love to make comics. I think that comics are the exact happy collaboration medium. You know, writing novels, which I do love, but it's a really solitary process. Writing video games is a collaboration between me and 300 of my closest friends, which can be a real difficulty, you know, sometimes to get everybody on the same page. Comics is like you, a really talented artist who's more talented than you usually, pretty much always, It's always, you know, an editor, a colorist, a letterer. It's like a really nice, small team of really talented folks at the top of their game who come together to like elevate each other's ideas for a project that is really story first. And I love that. I love the visual medium. I think there's so many interesting things you can do with comics where you're not limited by like a VFX budget of a video game, and you're also not limited to just pure prose like you are in a fiction book. So it's always comics for me.
What's your advice to someone who wants to jump into the world of geekdom but is kind of a little apprehensive about it?
Find the one thing that speaks to you and branch out from there. So if you really, really love an animated show, find similar animated shows and stick to that path. Don't feel like you have to be into everything. For a really long time, I didn't watch a lot of anime because that felt like the one thing that was always like way too big and way too intimidating for me. And so I was into like everything else, but not that. And just recently I've started to open the door more to that. And I've been having a really, really good time with it, but I've just been sticking with shows that like I'm going one at a time, sticking with shows that are similar to ones that I know I already like, and trying not to overwhelm myself by like learning everything all at once. There's no test. If you like things, you're a fan. Like there is no fake geek. Like it's not 2014 anymore. Like we're beyond that, you know? If you like things, you're a fan. Stick with what you like, love it hard, and find other people who love it too, and they're going to be able to help open more doors for you also.
Toxic fanboys need not apply.
We're over that. That happened. It's over.
And because this is Literary Hype, what books are you hyped about right now?
Oh my gosh, I just finished reading Nona the Ninth. I finally had the time for that. Like, I mean, obviously, every second lesbian here is dressed as Gideon and Harrow. I don't know if you've noticed, but it's amazing. The new Martha Wells Murderbot book is coming out soon, and I can't wait for it because I love those Murderbot books. Martha Wells wrote Stargate books back in the day, and I feel like she brings a lot of that sort of like irreverent Stargate humor to the Murderbot books, and so those have been really, really great. Though that's top of mind for me right now, for sure.
Anything else you want to talk about?
Pick up Star Wars Jedi Battle Scars in stores everywhere, and don't forget to pick up Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks to Sam for carving out some time while she was at Emerald City Comic-Con to talk to me. It was so much fun, and just being at Comic-Cons is always a good time. So we were having a blast, and I'm so thankful that she decided to give me some of her time amidst all of the chaos that was going on there. If you're interested in any of her books, those links are down below, so you can get your hands on those, as well as finding her on the internet so you can get connected with her as well. And while you're down that side of the video, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to this channel if you're not already, turn on your notifications so you know when I post the next video, and you never know who might be popping in here. But until next time, thanks for watching. Have a good day.